Peace, y'all, and welcome back to another Chuck Talk episode. I'm Brother Lee. This is Brother Eric. We are here again on your payday, starving like Marvin. If you don't know Marvin, just know he's starving. But yeah, no, all jokes aside, we're excited to see y'all today. It's the episode 12. Big smiles, much excitement. Thank you for everybody been rocking out with us so far. I know y'all waiting and scratching at the door for the joke of the day, but unfortunately, I won't be doing the joke of the day, but Brother Eric will be. Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Brother Eric take us down to the ground. I mean, take it away. Take it away.
Wow.
Actually.
So you said it's gonna be wet?
No. So
how about this?
Not right. Brace yourselves.
Why did people hurry to the gym to see the fruit salad bowl gymnastics?
They did some sweet moves?
No.
They want to see a banana split.
They was excited to see the banana split. Where you going, bro?
I can't do this. I can't. Yo, I'm about to leave.
Hey, yo.
The banana was doing splits in the gymnastic joint?
Like a banana split?
I get it. I just never liked banana splits. Oh. And like, banana's been splitting for a little while now.
I thought it was great.
No, it was a good joke. What gym was y'all at?
The fruit bowl gym.
the fruit. So is that the same one the Fruits play in when they got two of the best teams?
There we go.
The Fruit Bowl, Super Fruit Bowl.
There you go.
2. I guess. All right, yeah. So
banana split.
Now that we got our Fruit Bowl, Fruit Cup, banana split joke of the day.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be able to proceed ahead.
Hold up. Before you proceed, bro.
Yep.
You can't talk about this topic without talking about who the topic came from.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
First of all, before you go with absolutely, you gotta be able to share with people why we was motivated to do this. Before you you gotta let the people know that you are the inspiration for this episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the first couple times.
Before you let me be quiet. All right.
No. Hey, so to be transparent with y'all and give y'all some vulnerability, Lee. Y'all see what I did with that vulnerability, Lee? Yeah. All right, y'all ain't ready for me, yo. But to give y'all some vulnerability, yeah, that's my next one. To give y'all some vulnerability. No, seriously, this episode has come from myself. In my role here at the Black Youth Institute, and I've also been a protege of Brother Eric, who I'm sitting next to, since October 1 of 2018. And as you all know, we walking into October 1, 2020. So it's been 2 years under his wing, but also just developing the leadership and grateful enough, fortunate enough to be able to practice them leadership skills in the role I was blessed to be able to serve today. So. Yeah, we'll talk about, so I'll take that back. So our topic for today is leadership development.
That's funny.
Leadership
That's actually really clever. Leadership development, right? So, man, I'm really excited about this, and I know I started off with the joke, but in all seriousness, man, I think that, one of the things that when we talk about, we've been talking in this show about Black land and food sovereignty. We've been talking about community accountability. We've been talking about movement building and different approaches. We've had several really deep topics. But one of the things that I really would like to talk about, and I just want to just say, just for those who've been excited about our bell questions, we don't have any bell questions today, right? We got our own bell questions. In fact, we're going to do something different for our 12th episode. I want to ask bell questions to Lee, and Lee gonna ask some bell questions to me related to leadership development. And so I just want to say though, just to frame it, right? Mm-hmm. It's really exciting to talk about it, and Lee talked about it, man. This is year number 2 as Brother Lee being in the organization, starting out as a community organizer and now as director of operations and culture. It doesn't mean that he stopped organizing, but it just shows the progression and growth, and not in the same way like, people get promotions and they get more money and all of that kind of thing. It's not about that. But his role, and he would tell you, comes with a lot more hearing from my mouth, a lot more different things. But the reason why we pulled this topic out as something to talk about is because in order for this to be an intergenerational movement, in order for this to be a work that is not just about centered on one person. In order for it to be something that you transfer skills to others and reproduce what we want to see in terms of equity and sovereignty, you can't do that in a vacuum. You can't do that by yourself. So you got to share it with people. And I want to be clear, Brother Lee and I are two representatives of a large family of people who represent Black Youth Institute. And that's one example. We have our producer of this segment is Brother Jordan. We got our administrative organizer, Twanisha Thomas. We got Maisha Taylor, who is our farm manager. We have Teal Hinton, who is our director of development and finance. And we also have Siglale Ceballos, who also operates as a community organizer for our food susu work, our food co-op development. I'm saying all that to say is that my commitment to them, my commitment to anybody who are blessed, who I am blessed to be connected to, I want to make sure that I'm transferring skills and experiences that are going to help us do movement work, no matter where we find ourselves on the continent, and particularly Black liberation work. Like no matter where we find ourselves on this continent or any place throughout the African world, that we're able to contribute to liberation. And like that's a staple part of movement work. Stuff that people don't talk about. People talk about movements but don't understand social movements really, don't understand community organizing. And in order to do that, leadership development has to be a part of that, so that essentially what we're doing is building power. You can't build power if you're only organizing sticks and bricks. It's got to be people. And people should be, by the end of a process, have more skills, more experiences. And because otherwise, you're doing what organizers would call breaking the golden rule of organizing, and that is doing for people what they can do for themselves. And so that's what our work is. That's why leadership development is important. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to have a free flow conversation, break the mold a little bit, but still talking about movement and how leadership development plays into our movement toward Black land and food sovereignty.
Yeah, that's love, man. I think before we even dive into I guess we can call them Bell perspectives today, but before we even dive into
I like that, Bell perspectives.
Before we dive into the Bell perspectives though, man. Hey, I'm grateful to be lifted up today. I'm grateful that we can lift up everybody else who's a part of our team. But what I'm really grateful about is that I don't think we give enough homage. You're not gonna like it, but I don't think we pay enough homage to the folks who provide those opportunities for us. And to be vulnerable with you all for 2 seconds, man. But before being able to step into this role here, as an organizer, if you will, in October, I was at a bank. I won't say the name because I ain't gonna name drop like that. Yeah, I don't
pay us if you want.
But generally, overall, what Brother Eric is saying is that like when I think when you come to BYI and you under I wouldn't say his wing, but you under Brother Eric's vision, if you will, I should call.
Tutelage, I love that word though.
Tutelage. So when you under his tutu, you gonna realize you'll realize his leadership style and you'll realize his work style. And I really just want to be clear that like it's never been I need you to be, if that makes sense. And that's exactly what I mean. It's never been I need you to be. It's always been nourishing the seeds that are already in you. And that's a different thing. Those are two different things. When you go to a job, it's I need you to become this person, be this banker, be this cashier, be this lawyer, whatever it is, right? However, organizing, right? And at Black Youth Institute specifically, you come here, and this is me as being vulnerable again, as one of the first to come on board, fortunate enough, but from word for word was, it's enhancement. It's not rebuilding. It's not remodeling. It's none of that. It's enhancement of what's already there. And I don't think we have enough folks inside of Black spaces, Black and brown spaces, that do a great job of identifying strengths, weaknesses, and using them as an advantage to the resources. Because I argue that that's not only something that should be done in the corporate world. That's not only something that should be done in nonprofit or any organizational world, but just I think it's a concept to be adopted in general. I think it's the thing that makes the most sense. And I think it's, for lack of better words, like one of the paths of least resistance. So please let me provide space for somebody who wrote it on paper a long time ago in 2015, sat in the living room with folks in 2016, and nourished it and brought it to life and gave opportunity to people like myself who used to get in trouble for reading the book at work. You know what I mean? So Yeah, I'm vulnerable right now, man. I feel a little emotional now, but
me too. That's my head.
yeah, man.
But no, I appreciate that, bro. That's funny.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Ask away. Ask away.
I want to ask you a question, and if you can give your Bell perspective.
Yeah, go away.
So, may I have the bell? So my bell question, Lee. So not only have you been, just like I have, and continue to be a student and continue to be developing as a leader, what has been, I guess, the most important lessons that you've learned that you've also transitioned and transferred to develop leadership of others?
That's a good question. I'm in a place where I learn a lot of lessons by the day, to be honest with y'all. But if I had to say the most important lesson, I think, in the most formal sense, I think the most important lesson I've learned was how to organize. I think, and what I mean by organizing is that, like, imagine having these pool of things that are very congruent, go together, and will make up this big product, right? But you don't know where to put them at. Essentially, ordering a new nightstand with no instructions, right? Yeah. Like, you know it's going to be a good nightstand, you just don't know how to put them together. And I think the model of movement building and organizing that you provided us as a group, us as the organization, has equipped me for anything. And I mean, like, with respect to everybody, you know what I mean, and our organization, but I don't think it's nowhere I can't go that I can't organize this way. And I know you don't organize us to, you don't teach us to organize here, you teach us to organize, and that's what I'm grateful about. But that's one of the most formal lessons I've learned. I think the best lesson I've learned, though, is relationships. I've always been very, very a relationship person. And by that I mean, like, I take pride in my friends. I have the same friends for over decades now. I take pride in people I come across that I really are attracted to, their mindsets, their perspectives, and their ways of life. And I do my best to learn from folks, and I do my best to pour into folks that I can pour into as well. But Brother Eric always says this. It says, smallest aspect of society is not the individual, it's the relationship. And I tell us that everybody I come in contact with now, because I think when you get your eyes on that perspective, you talking about building with folks becomes a different thing. And by a different thing, I don't mean that it looks different, because the truth is it doesn't look different. It's still cards at the table. It's still gathering together. It's still cookouts. It's still watching a movie together. It's still reading together and coming together and deciding what y'all read about and breaking that down. It's still all of those things. However, there's intentions behind it now. When you all start to do those things, you'll see that you're closer, you're moving the needle to something that you all are collectively on the chase against. So when you ask about a lesson, bro, I can write you one of these, one of the lessons I've learned. I'm grateful for that. But the relationship piece, I don't think it's just a lesson that was for BYI. I think it's a lesson for the world. And that's why, you know what I mean, when I'm out and I'm fortunate enough to speak to folks, I gotta deliver that. So that's one of my that's one of my major lessons, man. I don't take that lightly, bro. That's
and that was a perspective that was given to me that I learned from a brother, an organizer, fellow comrade named Gopal. Gopal out of an organization called Movement Generation, and when it blew my mind, because I always knew that, but it's just simple, right? Smallest unit of society is the relationship, not the individual. No person, no organization, nothing operates in a vacuum. It's always about the ecosystem. And so if you have an ecosystem, you should have a good relationship with it, right? So anyway, I'm sure you got a question.
Yeah, there we go. I do got a question. So we always talk about leaders at this at our offices with our group. And how we talk about leaders, hopefully you all are talking about it the same way, but if you're not, here's some new language for you. We always talk about how leaders are the last to eat and the first to die, right? So in our eyes and organization, we're clear, like, leaders that's not the highest position at all. It's actually probably the lowest position. You know what I mean? You're gonna stand in front of everything before it gets to the collective regardless as a leader, you know what I mean? So that's part of your job, is to figure that out and create those layers and barriers and be able to provide some kind of blueprint or web, if you will, that can allow folks behind you to maneuver as well. My question, however, is, as a leader of an organization with the board, with the staff, with interns, fellows, with volunteers, 5 different initiatives, international and national just media and coverage and relationships, how do you continue to have that unselfish, inarrogant, but stern perspective? You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm asking is, like, what I've learned about Black leaders over time is that there has begun with an imbalance, or there has been an imbalance that developed over time. And I don't have a reason why, to be honest, from my studying or from my readings and watching videos and excerpts. I think what comes out of it is the work is sometimes too much, or home is sometimes too much. And I'm talking about true Black leaders, Georgia Gilmore, Bobby King, Bobby X, Fred Ham. Like folks, I've watched folks literally either split from work or almost lose their mind. You know what I mean? So I'm asking you, in this realm, you talk about the kind of work we're doing, and you talk about the kind of people and the kind of systems we're up against. How you still got your sanity? How are you able to have enough sanity to ensure that we sustain and we have what we need all individually, to be able to uphold, the community at a collective?
Yeah, man. That's an interesting question. I just was asked that question once today. It was a similar version of that question. Watch out for a podcast interview that's coming out. So I think, one thing, when I was younger, my wife gave me this gem. I don't remember where it came from, but this gem was a story of a guy, it was a king or somebody, a ruler, who had a person who he paid that was a part of his administration or whatever, whose job literally it was to walk around when people were like, "Hey, sire," or whatever. His job was to say, "You're just a man." I got that, right? What keeps me sane and humble and grounded is the reality that I'm just one person. I only can do what I can do. And in being that one person, I'm clear that I'm powerful, not because it's me, but because I know where I come from.
Right.
And so when you alluded to something earlier, that one thing that we do here, we've talked about it a lot, political education. We don't study personalities. We study movements. Personalities are just people, and those are just, you learn from those people, and they are there. But those people were a part of a larger work, a larger movement. I like that. We don't study women and men, we study movements, right? Wow. That's it, right? So I'm saying that to say that, like, my hope is to be able to transfer to others that this is important work, this is ancestral work, and I have to do it. So I have to figure out ways to do it utilizing approaches that allow me to be here for as long as I can be, and allow for this work to be here. I know I'm on the shoulders of other people.
Absolutely.
I'm 100% clear about that. And I know that we're doing work together, and I fashion myself as a leader amongst leaders. I follow as I lead. That's what a radical accountability is, in my opinion. Right? Radical accountability looks like being accountable to your people, while also knowing that you have to lead and make decisions, but also accepting the decisions that are made by people who have other authorities that in my case, I've given folks authority to do.
Right.
For example, you telling me to go home on RCS today, right? It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
No,
being
right.
in partnership, but when you recognize that principle that you talked about, that the relationship is the most thing that's the most important thing, then I'm clear that the only reason I get to be a leader is because people follow me. So people who follow me got power just like I do. And the last thing I'll say is I read a book early on in my journey as I'm learning and developing and questioning the world and questioning God and questioning what my life is going to be. I read this book by Obari Hendricks called The Politics of Jesus. And one of the principles and concepts that he lifted up in that book is that we have to treat the people's needs as holy. If I'm treating this work as sacred, then I can't get a big head. I gotta maintain that.
Right.
Look, I'm somebody's father.
Right.
I'm somebody's life partner. I'm somebody's brother. I'm somebody's leader. I'm somebody's friend, and I have to be able to be all of those things at the same time. And so part of that is me being clear about that, but knowing that I also need to pass that on to other people, because we can't sustain a movement without being our whole selves in a particular space. And so I just try to be my whole self. And I know we don't have a bunch of time, but I think that that's the biggest thing that I want to teach. Like how to be not just leaders of movement, but to be a solid people. Because leaders in movements and leaders in organizations are just people.
Absolutely.
Right? And I just want us to know that we're relegated to our humanity, not to our position.
Right.
A position is only, our positions are only a factor of our humanity. If we are human first, if we are living beings first, our leadership will reflect that. If we're leaders and we're people with positions, then we might lose our humanity.
That's real, bro. That's powerful, bro. Hey, so if I can, real quick, so we got to close it down. But if I can just spend the last few seconds just being realistic about something. Hey, so just real quick, y'all, and I'll let y'all free, and I promise y'all ain't send us no food today anyway on payday, so I ain't gonna keep going back and forth with y'all about that. But no, the reality is, I was a kid. I was 11 years old. I was at a community center over in East Baltimore. And as a kid, not really a dad presence, had my grandfather, grateful for that things. That's not, that's not an excuse or anything of that nature at this point. However, I met Brother Eric when I was 11 years old. He was 19 years old, 19 BC. And no, I met him when he was 19. I say that to say is that when you talk about leadership development, you all get to see it at this level, right? You get to see it at like, we're grown now, and I learned a ton from Eric and everybody else who's in our organization, to be real. I'm a person who will learn anything from you saying, from what you say out your mouth. I think it's always something to learn. But you talk about leadership development and coming from a community that we come from, when you're at the age of 19, that only happens if you truly want to see somebody flourish. If you truly want to see a seed that you planted actually harvested. You truly want to see it grow, right? And what I'm saying is, as a 19-year-old kid with 1,000 million things on your mind, you have the pride and the consistency to continuously go to this plant and ensure that this plant has what it needs, ensures that it grows, and ensures that it has the sunlight and everything else it needs to flourish. And let me be clear about this piece. If it don't got it, you go and get it. You go and find it for yourself and you create that. That's a different thing. It's a different kind of heart. And imagine doing that for 20 people inside of the same room. However, I'm fortunate enough to share my experience that for folks who don't know, Brother Eric was my counselor at a community center that we kind of, I guess we could say we both kind of grew up at. And in that community center, when you talk about leadership development, it was happening there, right? So, I won't assume, but at 19, I imagine you have a lot of lessons today that you didn't have at 19.
Yeah.
And of course, at 11, I was working with an empty notebook. You want to be realistic, right? But I said to say is that, like, we standing here now as stand-up men, and I don't know how much he would know, right? But at that age of 11, there was a time where he would not let us go outside. I know this sounds crazy, but he would not let us. He would never let us exit the room to go and play outside and do X, Y, Z. We were 11 years old. And younger. I may have been one of the youngest in the class, to be honest with you.
You were.
But he had, his ask was, you all need to write me a 1-page paper before you go out today, right? And I know right now that's like, it sounds like punishment, right? But there's really accountability in there. There's really like, who steps up here? There's really like, where's my complainant? That's really an opportunity to decide who you are. It's an opportunity to be like, well, I can be along with the collective and whine and cry and you know what I mean, and miss an opportunity, or I can just stand in front of it, take care of business, because at the end of the day, it's just a 1-page paper, at least.
Who was the first person who turned it in?
Yeah, man, so I was the first person. I think what came out of that moment for me is that, like, there was somebody I knew I could trust that wouldn't give up on me. There was somebody I knew who seen me for what I was trying to be, which was just ahead of the curve if I ever could. And there was also somebody who just like, I think in that moment, just like something bloomed that was like, you got something I like, you know what I mean? And it was also like, you are somebody that I'm inspired to be. So I said it to say is that, like, life comes full circle. So when you think about Black men and Black communities, you talk about leadership development, man, it happens there. And I'm only saying Black men because that's all I can speak from at this point. Yeah. But be clear, I have some powerful Black women in my life as well. But I spoke to say that that seed was planted when I was 11 years old.
age?
I'm 26 and he's 60. Just
Your
know I'm 26. I'm 26 today. Y'all do whatever math y'all need to. I'm 26. But I said to say is that I'm standing here and I'm walking in my purpose, and that don't happen. That don't happen without that one-page paper, essentially. So yeah, man.
Look, can I say this?
That's man.
Every time we talked about this, I get a little choked up, just a little bit. And I think because, man, you said something that was very experiential. Me and you both experienced that.
Yeah.
I was the person given the assignment.
It's a two-way stick, yeah. Energy, man.
And you were the one who were, who listened to the instructions, and you did that. You brought out a couple things that I just want to say, just for those who are listening. Well, how do you do leadership development, right? Because it's not just about programming.
Very true,
I talked to a sister a while back. She was saying like, well, I want to know about some youth programs and such. I said, look, you want to beware of looking for things just in a European-centered or European-centered framework of program. There are people who are being trained right now and they ain't got no funding. They in somebody's house right now learning something, or in somebody's classroom or something that's informal. But they're being developed, right? That's what we call rearing. That's what we call raising. That's what we call training. I don't want to get too preachy, but the biblical scripture would say that if you raise up a child in the way that they should go, when they're older, they won't part from it. A child in that context is not necessarily a physical child. Right. It could be anyone, right? So that you're learning from it, and you talked about something. So I want to give a couple of tips. So you want to be in right relationship with people in so much that, like you said, I'm not asking you to be something. I'm actually doing the work of getting to know you so that I can build within you what you don't see that you already have.
Exactly.
So that as an adult or as a person who is training and developing leaders, you want to do that first. You want to get to know that person. You want to spend time. 2, you want to, as you are learning that person, you want to, as you talked about in that example, I didn't even know I was doing this. I'm critiquing my 19-year-old self, which is pretty dope. You want to sift out. You said, are you a complainer? Are you a doer? Are you somebody who just struggled and need a little bit of help? You find out who's in your cast, right? Your cast of people, and developing who they are, and then understand through that who are the leaders, who may not be leaders, who need a little bit of support, or who ain't with it, so that you can develop those who are willing to be developed. Right. The other thing is recognizing that that leadership development is about not only spending time, but also you said something earlier that was me at 19, is me at 34, being stern and accountable.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Being stern and accountable.
You, absolutely.
being principled. Being very much about if you said this, then you need to do this. Stand on it. If you can't, be able to explain it, and then we figure it out from there. And this brother right here can attest, that's the guy who I am. People might say I'm a blank hole, but I'm going to tell you the one thing you ain't never going to hear me say is that, a certain thing. But anyway, you ain't going to never hear me say that I ain't willing to step forward and talk about my own stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? And being willing to say, look, you said this. If you couldn't do it, why didn't you communicate about it, right? So that means holding people accountable. That's a part of leadership development. The other thing is, of course, taking time to train and build trust, right? Bro. So like whether you're talking about teaching certain lessons, putting people in positions that cause them to fail when you know that they're going to fail, give them all the resources that they need, but also the last part I would say about leadership development, if you go through training, whether you're teaching them how to run a meeting, recruit people, how to develop an agenda, those small, what seem like small skills, budgeting, all these kinds of things. You also want to make sure that you take the time in leadership development to celebrate what you see, to give feedback on what you're seeing. And again, this brother could tell you all the time, I'm that guy. But you want to be able to figure out all the ways in which you can be in right relationship, but you can't do that without knowing what's going on. So those are just some tips on how to develop leadership with the people who you're around, because you're not always going to be there. And if you're going to build movement, it has to be with people, and you have to have people who are ready to do the work. So those are just some tips, and I'm willing to talk more if folks are interested to check in.
Yeah, so the last few things, well, really just 2 things I got to say, and we'll close it out. Our starving selves will close it out. But the first thing is, if you think leadership development happens only in classrooms, then we wouldn't have any leaders that we're fortunate enough to have already experienced. So let that sink in. If it happens in classrooms, if it only happens that way, then we wouldn't have been able to experience any of the leaders that we have. And lastly, if you believe you don't have a purpose, if you believe you don't stand on nobody's shoulders, just know that one day somebody's gonna have to stand on yours. So make decisions accordingly to that. And I also wanted to say before Brother Blacksmith cuts the camera, you'll see us on your next payday. Please send us questions, send us feedback. I've gotten to see some folks' thoughts in the past couple of episodes, and I'm grateful. I think we actually gonna start sharing some feedback if folks are okay with it. But yeah, find us at CHUCG.
What we gonna be talking about next time, bro?
Oh man, next time we're gonna be talking about bro. What you asking me, bro? What we gonna be talking about next time, bro?
I think we're gonna talk about. We'll be talking about next week. You kind of, that's kind of crazy. But we'll talk about nutrition. We'll talk about nutrition justice, and we'll talk about nutritional justice and race. You know what I'm saying?
I'm good with that.
That's what we're gonna talk about.
Y'all heard, Brother Eric. Please send us questions. Find us at CHUCG, at Black Yield, on Instagram, at Black Yield on Twitter. At Black Yield on Twitter, and at Black Yield on Facebook as well, and Charlie Urban Community Guide on Facebook as well.
Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.
See y'all next week.